Hey everybody. So I had an idea, and I wasn't sure it was gonna take a lot of research, and I wasn't sure how to complete it. Let's just put it that way. So I thought, okay, I may be not necessarily the biggest fan of AI, but perhaps it could help in this situation. So I downloaded ChatGPT, and well, let's just say my idea came to a beautiful thing that I was hoping I would get out of it, and worked really well. So I'm going to just read you a summary. I asked it after our conversation to summarize basically kind of my thoughts and ideas, and as well as its questions and whatnot, to put it into kind of an essay format. So I'm going to read that to you really quick here, and well, not really quick, but as best as I can. I'm hoping that it'll cultivate a better understanding, or at least create some depth and thought into some different perspectives on life and the meaning of our existence, I guess, if you will. It's titled The Great Unveiling, a philosophical reflection on God, humanity, and the purpose of history. Introduction. This document is not intended as a declaration of absolute truth, but as an exploration of a philosophical and theological framework that seeks to reconcile free will, divine purpose, human consciousness, and the biblical narrative into one cohesive vision. The central conviction is that reality possesses a coherent structure established by God, yet humanity experiences that structure only in part due to the limitations of finite existence. The purpose of life is therefore not merely survival, nor simply moral behavior, but participation in an ongoing unveiling that restores humanity's relationship with its Creator. Part 1. The meaning of apocalypse. The modern understanding of apocalypse often evokes images of destruction and the end of the world. However, I want to point out, the original Greek word apocalypsis means an unveiling, revelation, or uncovering. Viewed through this lens, history itself becomes an apocalypse. The unveiling is not merely the revelation of future events, but the progressive revelation of reality itself. Human nature is unveiled. Power is unveiled. We see that a lot these days. Truth is unveiled. Love is unveiled. God is unveiled. And perhaps, most importantly, humanity is unveiled to itself. Each generation experiences moments in which hidden realities become visible. These moments are not interruptions of history, but essential parts of it. The Bible as a story of reality. Rather than viewing Scripture as either purely historical or purely allegorical, it may be understood as both historical and symbolic. The historical events become recurring patterns that reveal deeper principles governing existence. Genesis describes humanity's communion with God. The fall describes humanity's separation. Israel's history illustrates humanity's repeated cycles of forgetting, suffering, repentance, and restoration. Christ embodies the perfect union between divine will and human freedom. Revelation completes the narrative not by ending creation, but by revealing its ultimate restoration. The Bible, therefore, becomes not simply the history of a people, but the story of consciousness awakening to its relationship with its Creator. Time and the perspective of God. Human beings experience reality sequentially. God does not appear to be limited in the same manner. If God exists beyond space and time, then history may already exist as a completed whole from the divine perspective, while remaining an unfolding experience for humanity. A useful analogy is that of a completed film. The filmmaker already possesses the entire work. The audience experiences it scene by scene. Neither perspective invalidates the other. Sorry, didn't mean to drop you. Likewise, creation may already be complete from God's perspective, while humanity genuinely experiences it unfolding through time. God's knowledge, therefore, need not eliminate human freedom. Knowledge is not causation. Observing an event does not create the event. God's eternal knowledge may encompass every free decision without forcing any of them. Free will within divine purpose. Free will and divine purpose need not oppose one another. God establishes the destination. Humanity freely participates in the journey. The choices of individuals and civilizations determine the path, the pace, and the suffering encountered along the way. History contains pivotal moments in which humanity is invited toward greater understanding. Sometimes those invitations are accepted. Often they're resisted. Yet the overall movement of creation continues towards restoration. Freedom is therefore not the enemy of divine purpose, but one of its essential mechanisms. Human limitation and the analogy of dimensions. The reality between humanity and God may be illustrated through the analogy of dimensions. A two-dimensional being cannot fully comprehend a three-dimensional being. The limitation lies not in intelligence, but in perspective. Likewise, humanity may currently possess only a partial capacity for perceiving the fullness of reality. This analogy should not be understood as a literal description of God's existence, but as an aid for understanding transcendence. God is not merely a higher dimensional being. God is the infinite source of all existence. The analogy simply illustrates that finite minds cannot fully comprehend infinite reality. As consciousness matures, greater realities become perceptible. Revelation is therefore not only the giving of information, but the expansion of perception itself. Creator and creation. Whether humanity is separated from God by degree or by kind ultimately remains a mystery known fully only to God. One possible hypothesis is that humanity participates in God's life while always remaining distinct from God. One possible hypothesis is that humanity participates in God's life while always remaining distinct from God. Union does not erase distinction. The highest destiny of creation is communion with the Creator. Yet even in perfect union, it remains possible that realities beyond present imagination await discovery. Humility, therefore, remains essential. Every insight should be held with open hands. Only God possesses complete knowledge. The nature of divine kingship. Authority exists to serve. The highest ruler is not the one who demands the most, but the one who gives the most. A true king understands that his kingdom flourishes only when his people flourish. Justice, compassion, patience, and wisdom are therefore not optional virtues, but necessary characteristics of perfect leadership. Knowledge must also be shared wisely, not because truth should be hidden, but because wisdom requires readiness. Children receive different instructions than adults. Knowledge without maturity becomes destructive. Knowledge joined with understanding becomes wisdom. Thus, revelation unfolds according to humanity's capacity to receive it. Understanding and love. Understanding and love cannot be separated. Understanding without love becomes judgment. Love without understanding becomes sentimentality. Together they become wisdom. Human beings often act from fear, ignorance, suffering, or incomplete understanding. Recognizing this does not excuse wrongdoing. Rather, it transforms condemnation into compassion. Instead of asking what is wrong with this person, one begins asking what experiences have shaped this person's understanding. Love seeks not to shame, but to elevate. The loving teacher does not merely provide answers. The loving teacher walks beside another until truth becomes personal experience. Truth discovered through experience transforms more deeply than truth merely memorized. Truth as progressive revelation. Human understanding develops. Many truths remain genuinely true while also being incomplete. As awareness expands, earlier truth become integrated into larger truths. This occurs in science, it occurs in philosophy, it occurs in spiritual life. Growth is therefore not the rejection of previous understanding, but its expansion. The closer humanity approaches reality, the greater its appreciation becomes for the infinite depth still remaining. Reverence and humility. By the way, this is marked X on my paper. And we all know... Oops, hold on. X. Reverence and humility. Right there near the, right there. I know it's reversed. X marks the spot though. No matter how much understanding is gained, reverence must remain. Reverence towards God, reverence toward truth, reverence toward those entrusted with responsibility, reverence toward fellow human beings. Humility is not ignorance. Humility is the recognition that every insight exists within an infinite reality that ultimately exceeds human comprehension. The wisest person, therefore, continues learning. I don't know anything. I'm not sure I even know that much. It was one of our great philosophers. I don't recall the name at the moment. The purpose of history. If this framework is correct, history is neither random nor predetermined in a simplistic sense. History is the gradual awakening of creation. The purpose of the unveiling is restoration. The purpose of restoration is communion. The purpose of communion is love. The story begins in a garden. It concludes in a restored creation where humanity dwells in peace with its creator. Perhaps heaven is not humanity escaping creation, but creation finally becoming what it was always intended to be. Conclusion. This philosophy ultimately rests upon one central conviction. Reality is ordered toward love. Knowledge exists to cultivate wisdom. Wisdom exists to cultivate understanding. Understanding exists to cultivate love. Love restores communion. Communion fulfills creation. If these principles are true, then every interaction with another person becomes an opportunity to participate in the restoration of the world. Keep that in mind, every action. Every time you interact with someone, you hold the power of life and death in your hands. The final goal is not superiority of knowledge, nor power, nor status. It is becoming the kind of beings capable of dwelling in perfect harmony with one another, and with the infinite source from whom all existence flows. And if there remain mysteries beyond that restoration, they will be received not with pride, but with reverence. For ultimately, only God knows the fullness of reality. I hope this helps enlighten you, at least to a point. I went through a crazy time when I turned 33 and a half. Started out, the story is just out of this world. Started out with being told by a complete stranger at the time that it was time to be who I was meant to be. The world was finally ready. And that's stuck with me ever since. I'm about to turn 37 here soon, so it wasn't that terribly long ago. But it was the most intense 6 months of my life. It revealed so much about me and about life and about reality. And in following the different algorithms that YouTube gives, we hear so much talk about dimensions and enlightenment, ascension, and so many things. The Epstein files coming out. Someone I thought very deeply of, David Wilcock, supposedly committing suicide. I believe he was suicided. That's all further beyond what this video is about, but think about frequencies and warfare in that aspect. I will definitely be posting more videos as I feel led to. Let's put it that way. But this was just a thought that I had got me to download ChatGPT to be able to expand on an idea and thought process I had that it was hard for me to construct efficiently myself. I struggle with words oftentimes, and my meaning doesn't get conveyed appropriately, so I thought perhaps using AI, since I don't necessarily have people that can assist me with it, I thought might help, and I feel like it condensed it pretty well. I am a loner a lot. I have my daughter, but I struggle communicating with others because, as I like to say it, my thoughts tend to be more quantum, and having the typical, hey, how about the weather? How about this? Meaningless to me. It's very superficial. I want to go in depth because I think depth is... We've lost so much depth with our snowflake attitudes and finding reasons to be offended by anything and everything, and that's a sad way to live. It's hard. It makes our lives way harder than they need to be. I think if we went back to the basics, it would help tremendously. In a world so connected, we've all become so disconnected. And when we can start talking face to face and having conversations and being able to convey thoughts like these without judgment. I'm not saying you have to accept my thoughts. I'm not saying that it's true. I'm just saying it gives our mind something to work with so that it doesn't just decay with meaninglessness. Ultimately, the world's not going to change by a YouTube video or by some abstract thinking online. It's going to change by face-to-face conversations of depth. That's where it lies. That's where it stands. That's how it starts. That's how it continues. That's the movement that changes the world. So if you like this, please make sure you keep an eye out for more. And I love you deeply, truly. Because why shouldn't I? You're me and I'm you. And we're all one. We're all connected. You can see it if you truly look at it. You'll see the commonalities, how your thought, all of a sudden you start seeing something because somebody else had that same thought. We're connected. It's been shown to me, and maybe not all of us simultaneously, but groups of us, individual groups. I work in a drive-through, and I find it so fun when I get somebody that comes through and orders something, and maybe the next order or 2 orders later, somebody orders the exact same thing, and I'm like, great minds think alike. There's so much. It's not coincidences, it's synchronicities. It's an expansion of our perception of the universe and how it operates. Watch how science continually gets disproven, or the truth simply expands into a larger one. God ultimately holds it all. I know not what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds my hand. I hope that the love I feel for everyone expands so that everyone begins to feel love for the ones around them. I am the chaos theory. I am the butterfly, and the tornado just barely started, baby. Have a good one. Enjoy. That's what this was meant for. To enjoy and to grow. But don't forget, reverence, respect to the greatest authority, our source, our creator, otherwise known as our God. Thank you.